I searched for the parents of Thomas H., my second great-grandfather, but eventually the records led to a brick wall. So I started looking at DNA to see if I could find answers. And that's when I discovered that the matches weren't what I expected. In this video, I'm going to walk through what I found, and after we dissect the DNA evidence, I invite you to tell me what you think it suggests about the parents of Thomas H. Hi, I'm Janine. Welcome to Janine-E-ology. My second great-grandfather was born in New Brunswick, Canada, so I began by searching the Canadian records. There I found a group of H servant children, including Thomas and Margaret H., listed in household records without clearly identified parents. So I turned to DNA after the records led to a dead end. Here I found matches that connect to Margaret H., leading me to believe Thomas and Margaret were siblings and part of the same family cluster. On closer review of the DNA, I came across matches pointing to possible family connections outside of New Brunswick, Canada. And that's what didn't fit. My matches led me to pioneer families who settled in Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Ohio. The first of these were the McConnells, including George McConnell and Nancy McConnell Dingus. Another McConnell line, that of Nancy McConnell Boozle, also appeared. Research suggests that George and Nancy McConnell Dingus were half-siblings. They immigrated from Ireland and settled in Lebanon, Dobbin County, Pennsylvania, later migrating to Scott County, Virginia. George married Susanna Snavely, and Nancy married John Philip Dingus. I traced them back to George McConnell or McGrendel. I have a less clearer picture of Nancy McConnell Boozle. She appears to have married John Boozle and lived in Mercer, Butler, or Beaver County, Pennsylvania. Her father's identity is debated. Some family trees list him as Benjamin McConnell, others as William. I also found a census record with a daughter, Nancy, living with a John McConnell. Nancy's sister, Susanna or Susan, married Seth DeGarmo, and the father is listed as William on the marriage application. The next line the DNA matches led me to is Arthur Fawcett's line, an Irish immigrant, or his wife Susanna's line. Information on Susanna has been difficult to trace. I'm not even sure of her maiden name, whether it's Farr or Smith. She's listed in some trees as Susanna Farr Smith. The couple settled in Knox County, Ohio, and census records indicate Susanna was born in Virginia. So for the purpose of this video, the H cluster is Thomas H. and Margaret. So next we'll look at how the H cluster matches connect to the McConnells. Before I explain what this graph shows, let me tell you how to read it. Each small rectangle represents one of my DNA matches. The label inside the box isn't the match's name, instead it's the ancestor they descend from. For example, these three matches descend from Thomas H.'s sons, John, Joe, and Edward. I descend from Thomas H. through John, then Lloyd, then my father Melvin, and finally me. The same idea applies to the other groups. These three matches descend from Margaret H., these three from George McConnell, these three descend from Nancy McConnell Dingus, and these two descend from Nancy McConnell Boozle. I've labeled those John Henry 1 and John Henry 2 because the two matches I found for her both descend from that son. I suspect there are more matches to her line hidden among my matches that I haven't discovered yet. This isn't every match I have. I have left many off to keep this chart readable. Now here's the important part. Every one of these matches also matches every other match shown on this diagram. For example, the descendants of John, Joe, and Edward all match the descendants of Margaret H., George McConnell, Nancy McConnell Dingus, and Nancy McConnell Boozle. If I drew lines between every one of those matches, this slide would be nothing but a giant spider web, so I've left those lines off. This isn't a traditional family tree. It's really a map of how different descendant groups are connected through shared DNA. And there is more. This is where we add the Fawcett-Smith couple I introduced in an earlier slide. Just like the other clusters, all the Fawcett-Smith matches match everyone on this illustration. And it's interesting to note that the Fawcett-Smith couple is in the same generation as my missing H ancestor and the McConnell father of Nancy Boozle. I could not find any connection between the H cluster and the Fawcett children. This suggests their connection to Thomas H exists higher up or laterally. I could say the same thing for the McConnell cluster. I have been through the children of George McConnell, Nancy Dingus, and I see no connection. As for Nancy Boozle's line, her children were born after Thomas and Margaret, so there definitely would not be a connection there. Here is where the mystery gets exciting. I started noticing these overlapping DNA connections to the McConnell family. This isn't just one random match. It's a massive pattern of cousins across different branches of the McConnell tree. Then I noticed a similar pattern pointing directly to a specific couple, Arthur Fawcett and his wife, Susanna Farr-Smith. Now the DNA strongly suggests I'm related to this couple, but because of how DNA works, I can't yet tell if my actual bloodline goes through the husband, Arthur, or through the wife, Susanna. So the DNA suggests both the McConnells and the Fawcett-Smiths are connected to my tree. But here's the missing piece. I still don't know the exact bridge that links them back to the parents of my ancestor Thomas H. The connection is likely there, hidden further back in time, and that's what I someday hope to solve. So that's what I've found so far. So what's your verdict? How do you think that these matches connect to the parents of Thomas H? Drop your ideas in the comments. Thank you for watching, and as always, have a great day.